Question is going to be, why, John? Why did you put yourself through this movie? After all the stuff that's been said about the film. And I knew going in what I was going to. I didn't know it was going to be this bad. But welcome back to another review. This is a random review here. Today we're going to talk about and review Joker Folie, Deux, which came out last year. And where do you start with this movie? Now, first of all, I have to mention I'm a big fan of Joker that came out back in 2019. And then when I heard about, okay, they're making another one, not that we need it, really, to be honest, you just needed one Joker film because it stands on its own. Unless you're going to do more, let's say, for example, maybe somehow you could bring in Bruce Wayne, maybe. But really, Joker 2019 is a film that really stands on its own 2 feet. And then when I heard more about this movie, Lady Gaga's in it and she plays Harley Quinn. And now, you. Then later on, we heard that there's going to be musical numbers in the film. And I'm like, okay, this is going to suck. And yeah, I mean, lo and behold, the movie sucked. And yeah, there's a lot to talk about here with this movie, but let's get to the plot of the film here. So Arthur Fleck is back as, Joker. His persona, played by Joaquin Phoenix, he's incarcerated at Arkham Asylum, and he's awaiting trial for his crimes. He soon encounters Harley Quinn, who is played by Lady Gaga, who's obsessed with his Joker persona, and their destructive relationship blurs the lines between reality and fantasy, and that's kind of the plot here to the film. If I talk about the acting here, Joaquin Phoenix, I think he does a good job, aside from all the other stuff that's wrong with this movie. He's a good actor. Like he was great in Joker. He's great in other stuff. And again, the acting is not the issue here. Lady Gaga is Harley Quinn. She didn't really do anything for me, but that's just me. I really didn't buy their chemistry, their relationship. But that's just me. I really didn't buy their relationship in the film. And you have some other actors in here like Brendan Gleeson, who's a prison guard, and he's a good actor. I'm like, hey, that's the guy from Lake Placid. And again, I know he's been in other stuff, but that's what I remember him from the most. It was directed by Todd Phillips. Todd Phillips, comes back to direct. But the direction here is awful. The direction here is just awful. And just the idea. I mean, the idea of this movie here, and I guess we can go ahead and get into the musical numbers here. All the musical parts in the film. Apparently, I don't know how much of the film, but apparently I was reading that I think the idea for this film, and again, I don't know how much, but apparently it came to Joaquin Phoenix in a dream for the idea of this movie. I wonder, which part, the part of the Joker and Harley Quinn relationship, the musical numbers, but getting back to the film, the musical numbers, why? What was the point? I swear, and if this film is like 2 hours and 20 minutes, and if I'm wrong, I'm wrong, but it felt long. And again, what was the part of the musical numbers? There was like 15 to 20 times where they would break out to a song. And I'm like, why? What's the purpose? What's the point? Why go this route? And just the whole story and tone of the film is very unstructured. I don't know, was there a fallout between Todd Phillips and Joaquin Phoenix? It just seems like, considering how great the first movie was, the first movie was a masterpiece. This film is a disaster piece. And it's like, how do you go from that film, which had compelling direction, an excellent performance from Joaquin Phoenix, and it's not that he's bad here, but the story and the direction and the whole tone of the film is very unstructured, and the musical numbers make it worse. Because again, there's like 15 to 20 times where they break out into a song, and it just feels like a very failed experiment. That's the vibe that I get from this movie. And I feel bad because Rosanna, she was watching it with me, and around the 55-minute mark, she had enough. She tapped out. And I can't blame her. I can't blame her at all. I'm not going to, again, she had heard about the film. I've heard so many bad things about the film. I watched it all the way through. I don't know why. There's some sick part of me, but I'm like, it's kind of like a train wreck. You have, sometimes you can't take your eyes off a train wreck. And this was definitely a train wreck that, just, you couldn't take your eyes off just how bad this movie was. And I would say if there's anything that, was somewhat okay, I thought some of the trial scenes, some of the trial scenes belong in a better movie. It feels like a different movie, when you have the trial scenes. I'm like, okay, maybe if this was a better movie, better executed, like maybe you could have some of these scenes in a Joker too. But when everything else and the whole vibe of the film and everything else is just bringing that down, the trial scenes really, don't save the movie. The trial scenes, like, they are what they are, and they're okay, but everything else, the weight of the shittiness of this film, it just brings it down. And again, you don't really buy the relationship between Joker and Harley Quinn, where Harley Quinn is fixated with his persona, but as the film goes on, he starts to realize that his Joker persona is crumbling. And then by the end of the film, and maybe I shouldn't give this away, but the ending of the film basically, you know what? I'll say spoiler alert here, so that if you don't want to hear what the ending is, I would say go watch another video. Skip this one. But basically, by the end, Arthur Fleck is killed in prison. He's stabbed, shanked, and by a random, inmate. And basically, it signifies a new Joker. That, marking the end of Arthur Fleck, his Joker persona, and, tells us that he never really truly became what he was. So basically, when you think about the first movie, it kind of makes the first movie pointless. The first movie was a sort of a build-up of his persona, his Joker, and then by the end of this movie, it just tells you that there was no point. There really was no point to the first movie. You kill the main character off, and basically what started that is that Arthur Fleck is rejected by Harley Quinn, and that's kind of the start of the downfall of Arthur Fleck, kind of giving up that persona. Again, that Joker persona crumbles, when that happens. And, again, it's just, they're so, the ending is very unsatisfying, and to me, it's just a cop-out. And again, it makes the first movie pointless, because the first movie was that. How do you go from the first movie, again, I know I'm just repeating myself, but how do you go from the first movie, which was this compelling movie, great direction, performances, and you go to this movie and it just seems like, let's just throw in the towel, let's take this bad idea and again, that just maybe, and I'm not the only one here that, I mean, if anybody likes this film, I don't, more power to you. I will not, I will not understand it. I can't understand it, and I won't understand it. But, how can you go from, just the greatness of the first movie, and here it's like, let's just throw in the towel and, let's, take it in such a direction that is just awful, and whatever word you want to throw in there. And yeah, it's like they wanted to experiment with something, but ultimately it was a failed experiment. And it really just shows that the first movie is all you needed. And the first movie stands on its own. I still like Joker from 2019, but I will never watch this again. And it was a waste of time and a waste of talent. And for everybody involved, from Joaquin to Lady Gaga to Todd Phillips, I scratch my head. And yeah, I can probably go off on a crazy rant here, for 45 minutes about this movie. But, as soon as I got done watching it, I wanted to forget about it. And again, my girlfriend, she had enough at near the hour mark. And again, I can't blame her. But yeah, this movie sucks. But out of 10 for me, this is a 3 out of 10 movie. Not the worst film I've ever seen, but as far as, I mean, films last year, there's not too many, but this is definitely one of the worst movies of last year. But that's it. That's it for my rant and review on Joker, Folie, Doo-doo. And Doo-doo it was, and it belongs in the toilet. This movie was meant for the toilet, and now I'm gonna flush it. Thank you for watching my review. Have a good day. All right, we got a little bonus footage here, joined with
Rosanna.
And you did see
Joker 2.
Yeah.
Unfortunately.
You saw like an hour of it, right?
Yeah.
And then what happened?
I fell asleep. I wasn't that impressed with the singing.
The acting, what would you say?
It was pretty good.
The acting was good?
Yeah. The acting wasn't bad at all.
The direction?
It was good too, but just the singing, just...
The musical parts?
Yeah, it felt like it was... They were from 2 different movies.
Yeah. It felt very out of place, didn't it?
Yeah. I would not recommend this movie to anyone.
Not even to your worst enemy?
No.
Is it the worst movie you ever seen?
No, not the worst, but it just wasn't... It was just hard to follow. I didn't like it. I didn't like the singing.
Yeah, because I think around the 1 hour mark, you were like, I've had enough.
Yeah.
And I wasn't going to force you to watch it.
Yeah.
I suffered through it, unfortunately.
It was pretty bad.
All right, so...
I think I gave it a 5.2.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you give it a 5.2. I gave it a 3. So to clarify, your rating is more precise, like IMDb style.
Yeah.
All right, so 5.2 rating, and out of 10, and I gave it a 3 out of 10, which averages out to a 4.1.
Yeah.
So again, her rating's more IMDb, on the point, precise. Mine's a more solid number. So is that all? Is any final thought that you have about the movie?
I mean, if you love musicals, then this is for you. But if you're looking for a dramatic movie, a follow-up to Joker, this is not for you.
It was a farce.
Yeah,
The joke's on us.
Yeah,
And she didn't even see the ending.
No.
Yeah, that was terrible. It kind of makes the first movie pointless.
Oh.
Arthur Fleck gets shanked in prison. Spoiler alert. But
Don't
that's...
ruin it for... Well, you got to put this in the title that there's a spoiler.
I already mentioned it in my review.
Oh, okay.
So, but anyways, that's it for now. Thank you for watching. Bye-bye.